Hi everyone, I've made this video today because it's a question that I get asked a huge number of times by students and their families, and that is it possible for a student to accidentally fail a unit at university? And on top of that, is it possible for a student to get to the end of what they think is their degree, but actually be told that they're not eligible to graduate and that they still have some study to go? And unfortunately, the answer to both of those questions is yes. Now, I'm not telling you this to stress you out or freak you out or anything like that. I can't pretend that it's really, really common for students to accidentally fail a heap of units, and it's particularly not common for students to get to the end of their studies and then told they've still got another semester or in fact a year to go. But unfortunately, I do want to let you know about it because it's actually less common than we would hope it would be, and I'm sure that it's less common than you think. Unfortunately, I work with a lot of students who do end up failing units for reasons that they just weren't on top of the requirements at the time, and it really is very unfortunate that I have worked with a handful of students who've actually ended up not being able to course complete even though they thought they'd done all of their study, and their family was celebrating because they thought they'd done their study. I don't want these things to happen to you. In my online course, I've actually got a deep dive into how best to prepare yourself so these things definitely don't happen to you. But at least in this short video, I'm going to tell you about why it can happen so that you know what to avoid and can think about what further preparation you want to do. I'll put a link down in this video to the online course to help you out. Okay, so how on earth is it possible to accidentally fail a unit? That seems like a crazy thing to have happen to someone, and I agree that it is. Most students would think about the fact that they need to get a minimum of at least 50% in their overall grade for a unit, and that's true for many, many units at many, many universities. On top of that though, a lot of units also have what we call special assessment requirements. And these are things that a student additionally needs to do in order to meet those unit learning outcomes and be said to have been successful in the unit. These things could range from things like must attempt all assessment tasks, must, for example, in an exam, achieve at least 50%. It might be that a student has to attend a particular learning activity. It might be something like this particular lab is where you'll only be able to learn these skills, or this particular panel is where you'll be able to meet these people and gain these skills. Sometimes it's things like a student has to show different checkpoints throughout the semester and show that or demonstrate that they've got particular skills. There's a lot of things that might be there in these special assessment requirements, but you can kind of see now how a student might actually very well get to the end of their unit and have got more than 50%, but just not have realised that there was a particular lab back in week 3 that they really should have attended, and now that they actually haven't done so, they can't pass the unit. Now, I say that as though it sounds a bit sneaky. It's absolutely not sneaky. Universities don't hide any of these things. There will be a full unit outline for students, and it will document all of those requirements even before the semester starts. And this is available to students at all times for them to check. So it is publicly available. I say publicly, but publicly within the university community. So the student will always be able to see these things. They're not tricks. They're not sprung upon the student. But we do find that for a lot of new students who are unaware of where to go to find this information out, that they aren't even aware sometimes that there are special assessment requirements. So let's put that up front. The other thing I would say is a number of students will sometimes not follow what we'd refer to as a typical study plan. And so they get to the end of their study and there's a number of things, just like in a unit, that their courses will have as requirements. It could be things like these particular named units are required in order for you to actually be able to graduate. Or it might be a particular number of units at a certain level of study is required. Or it might be that a student has to pick a certain number of units from within what we'd refer to as a restricted choice, or a list of units that they have in order to pick what they should be studying. Now, in these cases, these are course requirements, and a lot of times, as long as students are following along the usual study pattern, they are going to meet these requirements. But if they're not aware that the requirements exist, sometimes students can go off-piste and do things like pick extra open electives or swap one unit for another if there's one that they aren't particularly enjoying or they think it's not useful with their career later on. But unfortunately, if you don't actually satisfy those requirements, oftentimes what it means is the university is actually not permitted to allow you to graduate. And so I do sometimes work with students who accidentally picked a couple of incorrect units. I guess they might have been very useful and interesting to the student, but they weren't correct in terms of the requirements for the student's course. And it actually means that student can't graduate. Sometimes it means they've got to do a whole extra year of study. And obviously that's can be really detrimental for that student's mental health and even things like them supporting themselves and actually being able to get out there and enjoy their career. So as a flag, it is unfortunately entirely possible to accidentally fail a unit, and it's entirely possible to not be able to graduate as planned. If you would like a deep dive into where you should go to get further information and how to avoid this, I hope that you'll find the link below to my online course, something that would be helpful. I hope also that now you're aware of this isn't something that's going to happen to you, because you'll be well prepared and confident heading into university. Okay, happy study.